the field Trackstarz.
Today's topic is talking about that collection plate money, the tithe, the giving.
Gold plate.
Yeah.
You know, some churches stand and walk. Some churches pass the offering bucket.
Some churches got ATMs.
Some churches got ATMs. Some churches say, hey, we got the little paper thing. You put your card down, we swipe it and get your number. Some churches got everything. So what we're going to talk about today is tithing. Should Christians tithe? I saw something. I saw a video. I wish I could play the video. A guy talking about tithing, how it was an Old Testament thing and different things. Then I saw in the same thing that I sent you guys, I saw below it somebody talking about in Hebrews, talking about how Jesus was what's that dude's name? Melchizedek?
Yeah,
he was Melchizedek. Yeah. And he's the new Melchizedek. So you still need to tithe regardless of the fact.
Well, I mean, I've heard people tell me that they don't follow the Old Testament.
Yeah.
They're like, well, it's the Old Testament, blah, blah, blah. Jesus is the new covenant. And God's word says it's the same yesterday, today, and forever.
Yeah, and didn't
doesn't
Jesus
change.
say he didn't come to do away with it,
Yeah.
but that it might be fulfilled?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And he also said that it's the uncompromising word. Nothing should be added to it nor taken away from it. So
Yeah.
I don't entertain people who come with me with that story.
So what about,
what do
okay.
you think?
Well, I guess he just said what he think.
Well, I mean, as far as like the tithe, I think that there are different ways to tithe. You know, I haven't explored them. I'm thinking about it. I'll definitely pray on that before I make that move. I would never go out there and say that the church doesn't need my money, because I think that there are things that need to be done in the church.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can see the fruit of my labor being put to use, where somebody is getting their bill paid, somebody is getting their family a meal for the night, then I would love to see that. And I think that would do my heart justice, and it would also appease the spirit in me, you know, the Holy Spirit that dwells in me. So I think that it's up to you in your prayer closet, like that, whatever kind of convictions you get.
But if we're going back to what you said earlier, it's the Bible.
Okay, the Bible.
So the Bible is telling us, and I think sometimes it's a scapegoat for people. It's like, that's the Old Testament. Yeah, but it's still the Bible. If still people obeying the 10 Commandments, then they need to obey, in my opinion, that too as well.
I think that both parties can kind of cause conflict with that, because I mean, I believe in the Old Testament, of course, but in the New Testament, when I read in Acts, like when they were saying believers gave to every need, and you saw like that need fulfilled. There are needs in a church. If you connect yourself to a body, you know, to a building, an organization that's a church, you want to see where your money's going. I remember when Francis Chan was still pastor over his church, they would have like a report in service, and you would see exactly what everyone's salary was, where every cent went. Like, he read it out to the whole church. It didn't matter. Like, this is my salary. This is the salary of the assistant pastors. This is what's going to mission, so that you saw, okay, I contributed to that. My dollar has helped. So it's like when it seems secretive, and it may not be intentional, but when you don't see where your money's going, or you don't really see the fruits happening, or nothing's going on, it kind of discourages you to give. Like, what am I giving towards? It's like, where is my money going? And you kind of forget about tithing. And I think that it's okay sometimes. I mean, I've sometimes taken my tithing money and gave to somebody because someone came to me, I'm in need, but I didn't say, okay, well, from now on, I'm only going to give to people. Now I'm not going to give to the church. Because if you connect yourself to a building, you need to pay for it. If you're utilizing those resources, it costs money to run a church. But I think both sides have to kind of come together and do their part. Make sure you let your congregation know where your money is going. And then if you're, a member, don't be selfish and not give just because you're not seeing. I think there needs to be some compromise on both ends.
Yeah, no, that's real. Lauren Amati. I was about to say, or just piggybacking off of what you were saying, that because I've had a couple of people come up to me and ask that question of, how do you feel about giving your tithes to, somebody that absolutely is in need instead of giving it to the church. And, my response was very similar to yours, where it's like, if you consider yourself a member of a local assembly, then that's where your tithes should go, because you are receiving something in turn on a consistent basis. If it's the weekly weekly word, special events, benevolence, whatever, but there's definitely that should be where your tithe goes. And then as far as your offering, which is over and above your 10%, that's when you can give directly to whomever. And I was actually just reading a book in the Jewish culture where they do a great job of this putting a distinction between tithes and offering, and how your offering is where when you're giving to charities, or when you're giving to a homeless person on the street, or if there's just a certain cause that you want to contribute to. And I think oftentimes we do out of we do use the whole Old Testament piece as an excuse or a scapegoat, because we want to give where we want to give, basically. And if we don't, like you were saying, see the benefits of us giving to our local church, then it becomes even more of an excuse. But I always encourage people that, especially if you're connected to a local assembly, that's where you need to give your tithes to, and then anything over and above would be your offering.
So let me ask y'all this. All right, let's say a gentleman or somebody, family member, call you out the blue. Hey, I need $500, or I need they say I need $300, right? And let's say that's your tithe money. Now, do you give it to them and say, okay, I'm gonna tithe the following next time I get paid, or do you just tithe and tell them, well, you know what, I don't have it this week? So what would you do?
And what's the need?
Well, let's say the need is they about to get kicked out. They need rent money. So what would you do? Would you pay your tithes, or would you help the person and just say, you know what, Lord, this person has a need, and I have the money to give them? Or would you just say, I'm gonna tithe this and just let them know I can't help them out?
I mean, honestly, I would probably give the money to the person in need. Just the type of person I am, I wouldn't want to see anybody out in the street. Like, if I know them, it depends on the person. You know, if it's somebody that's responsible and they're going through a hard time, my heart would probably say, okay, I will pray about it. But I mean, if I felt at peace, then I would probably give that money, because I've actually done something like that before, and I didn't feel like, oh man, I messed up, because I mean, I did give something to the church. It wasn't 10%, but I gave something.
I'm laughing because certain family members are circling in my head, and I'm like, I ain't giving that joker nothing.
Oh
wow! Because I know where it's going to, or what I mean.
Right.
So the question is good. It definitely depends on the need. It definitely depends on the need. Can you be free and clear from not thinking about it? See, I don't necessarily know if I would call that a tithe. Yeah. Because I would be thinking about it the next time I saw him, or if it happened again, then I would be giving grudgingly. Yeah. And so I feel like that would be a problem for me, as if they came to me and said, "Man, my lights are getting ready to get cut off." And then the next week, they come into some money and they're balling out of control, and they're like, "Yo, what, you got the new Jordans, and I got an iPhone," and you know what I mean? Then you're looking at them like, "Yo, Yeah. And that would bother me, and that would tell me that I didn't give without some sort of connection to my heart. Like, it would be a problem for me to see them spending money after I just helped them out last week. Whereas I give to the church, and it's out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. Once they debit it, I don't even think about it anymore.
You're paying for Jordans in the church too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But like, do we think that? Do we ever equate that? Because some people, like she just said, you could be paying for your pastor's lifestyle as well.
Let me tell you, I joined my church 11 years ago. All right, and we started out with a building fund confession. And to this day, we still have the building fund confession. And our first building was $15 million. Ooh. And we're building a building across the street right now that's another $15 million. Wow. So I know that money is going toward the building fund confession. So it's different for me, and it's been that way for 11 years now.
Yeah, I was going to say that to answer your question, Jeremiah, or to address it, I think of two things. First of all, you've got to trust the church that you consider yourself a member of, which means you got to do your due diligence and research and ask the hard questions, and pray about it, because at the end of the day, you want to be able to trust the leadership of the church that you are a member of, and then the other side of that is the faith element, because you may not always be able to see and give a direct account for every penny, every dollar that you give, but we give out of obedience to God, not necessarily out of obedience to man, or not period, out of obedience to man. We give out of obedience to God. And so we're trusting in that moment that whatever institution or building that or person that we're giving to, is going to steward that wisely and properly. So it's, it's a faith element, but it's also a trusting the place where you are being fed also.
So, okay. So now that we have the whole tithing piece, like, has anybody had any stories about how tithing has blessed them? And it may not be financially. It could be like something that happened in your life and you was like, and somebody just said to you like, did you tithe? And you're like, yeah. And they be like, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, do anybody got any stories about the benefits of tithing?
I mean, I'll say, like, when I first moved down here 10 years ago and really, like, started practicing tithing and learning about that, I began to become more disciplined with my finances. God took care of my needs. And I mean, at first I didn't know if it was related to that or not, because I was still kind of new and doing the whole, church thing for real. But, like, I would get the IRS messed up something and gave me extra money out of nowhere, and it didn't make any sense. That never happened. So I mean, it's like things that I needed were taken care of. But as long as my heart was in the right place, like even when I've given to somebody in need, I feel like God has blessed me and took care of me. It may not have always been financially, but just becoming more disciplined, because I think we're always expecting money to come out of the sky when we tithe, but sometimes the blessing is you being more disciplined in your mind and training yourself to manage your finances. So when it comes down to someone having a need, you can have enough to pay your tithes and a person in need. You should have maybe a gift account, to put $10 or $20 in when you get paid. If you're a giving person, have some money stacked away just to give to people in case somebody needs something that's separate from your tithing.
I agree totally.
I think I have a story. I mean, I don't have a story about a direct result of tithing, but I do practice almsgiving. And almsgiving is a kind of like just